is getting nice.
Me, right? You better fight they asses. Fight them. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Alright, man. Here's your citations. Okay?
You can keep them. Here in a body bag. Do you look at me in my eyes? You guys are gonna take me away from here in a body bag. I promise you.
Okay, man. We'll see.
I promise you, you will. These bitches gonna see a fight today. I don't give a fuck. Fuck that. They gonna have to kill me.
Drive. Don't fold, you're gonna get shot, man. Get down on the ground now. I fucking hate my life.
I think it's really important us to dissect both these videos and take a closer look into why mental health issues are a serious thing and why it's important for us to understand that some of these officers' shootings are justified.
What are they trying to do?
A lot of people are posting reckless things about the Korryn Gaines situation. You know, they don't have all the facts and I don't either, so take this with a grain of salt. After seeing that video of her son and how she's warped his mind, you believe that they gave her a shotgun even though she has a doctor's note stating she has mental disorder and brain damage from lead poisoning. A woman died and it might have been her fault. The bigger issue here is that this lady was able to acquire a weapon even though it's been well documented that she has brain damage. You don't think it's time for us to start talking gun control? Not even just a little bit? After watching that video, I'm more worried about what that child will be thinking for the rest of his life because he's clearly been mind wiped by his mother, and it's sad to see her go, but I'm kind of happy to see that kid get out of that household. So there's been a systemic problem with officers training, and I still feel that that's a big issue. Let's talk about Dylan Noble first. In this video, we see Dylan Noble get pulled over by an officer and jump from his car and basically walk away. In the first video, then he turns around and put one hand behind his back and the other one out in the open. Now, an officer who was paying attention might have noticed that, yeah, he just put his hands behind his back, but did you see anything that made it seem as if he had a weapon behind him when he was walking away from you? I mean, look at the video. You can tell these things, but in the heat of the moment, I can see how that detail is missed. So I'm not knocking the officer for this situation. In fact, I felt they handled this the best they could, but at a certain point, they needed to be able to reason surpass what they had seen. They had no choice but to defend themselves because they do not know what is behind his back. We get the blood reports of Dylan Noble back today, and we find out he clearly had alcohol in his system and traces of cocaine in his blood. I'm not saying him being shot is a justification for doing drugs. No one should do drugs and go to jail. I said that wrong. No one should do drugs and be shot. Wait, I said that right. You have to be able, as an officer, identify when a person is no longer a threat. He has been shot twice now. He is on the ground, face up, still reaching for his waistband. If it is not clear at this point, Dylan Noble is trying to commit suicide by cop. And once this becomes apparent, you need to be able to enact a different method because you don't win in this situation and he doesn't win either. Dylan Noble's situation, while grim, is justified. I'm not saying being justified makes it right. It means those officers had to defend themselves, and it's a pity that the only way they could do that was with lethal force. But in the grand scheme of things, after he was shot twice and was down on the ground, you didn't have to put the other rounds in him. To be honest, we have to be held accountable that our action. And as an individual, if you're willing to risk your life and the lives of others, officers have no choice but to put you down for situations that you draw them into where life and death can happen literally like that. So that's one situation. Now let's talk about Korryn Gaines. If you don't know already, I took a peek into her medical files. She was currently in the process of suing her previous landlords for receiving lead poisoning, which doctors did come to the realization that it gave her brain damage and lead poisoning. The lead composite found in her bloodstreams and in her body was enough lead in her body to kill 2 human beings at one point. You might have been stopped by officers 52 times, and that can be considered harassment, but if you paint a target on your back that says "stop me," they're gonna stop you. You have to be able to look at the big picture. Korryn Gaines did have mental disability, so I don't think she was able to see that big picture. In this video, she got stopped for not having tags, which they can give you a ticket for, at best. You mean to tell me you're doing all of this just for a ticket? You have your son in the car, and you're fighting like this over attacked? How can you watch this video and defend her? If anything, you should watch this video and spite the person who sold her a gun. You should spite her mother for allowing her to have her son in this situation. You should spite anyone who knows her personally and didn't try and find her help, who didn't try and get her son out of that situation, because she is clearly disturbed. Her son is crying, begging her to just stop. But that type of fear in her child doesn't make her think, let me protect him. It emboldens her drive. She talks recklessly to these officers, which isn't against the law, but the level of patience they are showing for a routine stop is commendable. It is. These officers, they deserve to be recognized for this, because this individual is not cooperating with the big picture. There needs to be some way or some method of us identifying people who have mental disorder. I believe in the US alone, 18% of the population carries some type of mental disorder. That's like 57.7 million people. That's 1 in 4. So for every 1 in 4 person you meet, one of them might carry a mental disability. And as we learn more about mental disabilities and the different types, that number is increasing. It's not far-fetched to believe by 2020, 24% of 18-year-olds and up will carry some mental disability. But is it fair to say that someone who has a mental disability does not have the right to a gun? And to further stress this, when are we going to start training our officers to identify mental disability? Outside looking in, she is an angry black woman. But as someone who is educated and has taken psychology courses, you innately start to see she is not right in the head. But the fact of the matter is, their approach is completely off. She has a 12-gauge shotgun pointed at officers. We don't have footage yet, and we don't know what happened, but I have to say, without even seeing a body cam, I feel like her death might have been justified. The fact of the matter that she was willing to put her child in harm's way. As a human being, our innate goal is self-preservation. She has thrown that out of the window. She's not even reacting to her most animal-like instinct. A lot of people are screaming, why come they didn't send someone in to negotiate with her? You gonna go walk through that door with a 12-gauge shotgun pointed at you? You have to give the police a break here. But I also believe that this could have been handled differently. The standoff took about 6 hours. I feel like an extra 2 hours to plan a way of basically stun grenading her would have been a lot more appropriate. Entering the building from a different perspective. Go in through a window. Hell, they do it in movies all the time. Why can't y'all do it? You mean to tell me putting a smoke grenade in there, tear gas in there, something to subdue her? I feel like this is another situation where there's a hostage and the officers open fire, meaning they didn't care about the hostage, who you're trying to save. There's children in the home. You cannot fire 3 rounds into a house where children are. You know who does that? Gangbangers who do drive-by. Are cops gangbangers? America has a big problem right now, and it seems to be revolving around our inability to coexist, to understand each other, to communicate effectively to each other. In these situations, it makes you almost want to ask, what is it going to take for us to realize that the pen is mightier than the sword? You want some advice? Stop putting your kids in danger.